Hey guys, this is Mistress Nightmare here, and today we'll be reading Your Special, a Jeff the Killer love story. Before we get started, please hit that like button, comment, subscribe to this channel if you guys want more creepypasta fanfictions out there. Until then, let's get started. Witch, freak, monster. Those were all the words too familiar to the 17-year-old YN. All because of the mysterious power she held. The power to move things with her mind. Well, she wasn't able to do it at will. Only when she was scared or panicked did things move or break. Like at that time in kindergarten, when the bullies ganged up on her, she screamed out for them to stop, and they were sent flying back by an invisible force. And in middle school, a guy tried to force himself upon her. When she saw a medium-sized rock not too far away, next thing she knew, it flew and smacked the guy right behind the head, knocking him out cold, allowing her to escape. And just a month ago, some girls cornered her in the bathroom. As panic flooded YN, the sink started to vibrate and suddenly burst water out, scaring all the girls, giving YN a chance to escape. There was also the fact that YN wore nothing but black. She always said it wasn't because she believed herself to be a witch. She just felt comfortable in the color. Her favorite things to wear were a long-sleeve black dress with a V-neck and a skirt that she went down to her knees. It was a gift from her great-grandmother, the only person who ever showed her kindness towards her and accepted her. Even though knowing about her abilities, sadly she passed away when YN entered high school. She lost her only friend she ever knew. Ever since then, life became more and more unbearable. Everyone hurled insults at her, pulled mean tricks on her, like stuffing her locker filled with rocks that come hurling down on her, or slipping a raw toad leg into her salad when she wasn't looking. They were always made sure that they stopped the antics when it was averted that YN was going to lose him. Thus, a way to make her high school days a living hell without having to suffer the consequences of her powers. It was finally Friday, the only reason YN enjoyed the weekend, because it was a break from the torment she faced from school. She entered her home, walking while holding her arms, as someone would probably open the airlock and slam it shut, announcing that she was home. Not that it even mattered, though. Her parents called her a witch and completely shunned her from their lives, living if they never had a daughter in the first place. Her mother was sitting on the couch reading a book, while her father was in his office, typing away on his computer. YN sighed. She tried to gain their attention, but being a good daughter, cooking dinner for them, cleaning, letting them know where she was going, and for how long, even though her labor hasn't borne fruit, she just hoped one day, just maybe, her parents wouldn't acknowledge her as their daughter. She walked upstairs to her room, which accidentally happened to be the attic. She didn't care. She was able to do that as she pleased up there. It was actually very spacious up there, where she would try to practice and gain control of her powers. Only once she managed to do something out of her will. That was only last month. Was finding her hairbrush on her nightstand, but that was about it. She threw her backpack on the ground and collapsed on the mattress attached to her bed, taking a moment to stop and breathe. Then she stood up and looked outside the window of her room, pointing towards the forest. That literally was just yard away, she decided to go for a walk, clear her head. Changing into baggy clothes, a long-sleeved black shirt that she kept, and black jeans, knee-high boots, and marched downstairs. "I'm going for a walk. I'll be back in 2 hours," she said as she exited the house. Wyan enjoyed walking, well, being surrounded by nature. It was the only time when no one would stare at her or treat her badly. It was just her and the forest. She walked deeper and deeper into the forest, losing track of time. When she spotted some pretty flowers in the distance, she sped her walking towards them and intended to pick one and put them somewhere in her attic room to brighten up a bit of color. She bent down and plucked the purple flowers on the ground. She glanced up at gas. Before she knew it, she was in front of a mansion. It was rather grand outside. Cobwebs were everywhere, and the bricks, red paint, were chipping in some places, but she couldn't see anything through the windows. Curiosity took over her as she slowly began making her way into the mansion. "Why would a mansion be here, out in the middle of nowhere?" she asked. "No one." She reached outside the rusty doorknob, surprised to see it was able to turn and open the door. The hinges prompted a loud squeak, but didn't faze Wyan. As she observed the place, that it was abandoned. I mean, no human could reside in a place like this. Comfortable. She slowly stepped in. The first time she saw it was a huge spiral staircase that was padded with a matted carpet. "Wow, this place is huge," she explained excitedly from her discovery. Ignoring the stairs, she walked through the first door, finding a big living room, a dining room with a long table, a kitchen with a few rooms that were empty, that didn't seem to serve any purpose. The things that struck Wyan was strange. The room looked like they were being used. The dining room table looked like it was wiped clean. The kitchen didn't have much dust to compare it to the other parts of the house, and the black cushions in the living room have been indicated that someone has been sitting in it. This unnerved Wyan a little. Maybe I should go, fearing that someone might still be living in this house. She walked towards the front door and tried to open it. It didn't open. Wyan felt her heart stop beating as she tried to force the knob to turn, hoping that the rusty knob would break from the force, but did not budge. "What? How did it? How?" That was all she was able to say as she turned around to face the living room and took a few breaths to compose herself. "Okay, Wyan, calm down. Maybe think the knob is just simply hopelessly stuck. I'll find another way from the windows and climb out from there." She nodded at herself and went over to the first window she saw. It didn't budge. As she tried to open it, she groaned. "Where are my powers when I need it?" she asked, knowing that she will be able to control it and use the force to open it, or even shatter the window, like she once shattered the light bulb in middle school. She sighed and tried all the windows on the first floor. None of them opened for her. She sat on the floor in the living room for a moment. All that walking around had tired her out somewhat. "Looks like there's no way for my answers out here. Maybe the back door, somewhat I can use to get out." Feeling like this is an idea was foolproof, she began walking towards the hall that located towards the back of the living room. As she walked, she couldn't help to notice that some of the walls were stained with some red paint, although the paint didn't smell like paint at all. Too much like iron smell to be paint. She gulped and continued walking. She ended up in the room looked what somewhat incredulously towards the front of the living room, the only wall that was heavily stained with red, and some wooden tables and chairs scattered among the couch with no back door. Oh, you gotta be kidding me. YN muttered under her breath, knowing that she wasn't able to get out any sooner than later. She walked around the room for a moment. When she got closer to the wall, she noticed that besides the red stain, there was also what looks like slashes, marks engraved. They looked like they would come from a knife. Now this place was officially giving YN the creeps. I need to find a way out of here. Suddenly, an arm wrapped around her waist and a hand covered her mouth, muffling the scream she let out. Well, 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 what do we have here? A raspy voice asked, clearly belonging to YN's attacker. YN tried to struggle, but the grip tightened. Now, I'm afraid I cannot let you go. You see, you're trespassing, and you gotta have to pay for that. Her captor spun her around and pinned her towards the wall. YN gasped softly at the sight before her. Standing not even a body away from was a young man, looking to be her age, if only a year older or two. He spotted a plain white hoodie, black jeans, with black and white sneakers. His skin was pale, almost had a leathery feel to it. His medium-length hair was black and light to the touch, lightly touching his shoulders. But what shocked YN the most was his face. His eyelids were gone. Thus the charcoal black eyes that didn't blink as he stared at YN, and that carved into his cheeks with 2 slash marks on either side, making it look like a smile. YN trembled under the boy's grip, making his smile grow wider. "Oh, don't be like that," he cooed. "You must be tired from walking all around." He reached into his pocket. "Maybe you should." He pulled out a knife. "Go to..." Before he could finish his sentence, he screamed in pain as he was sent towards the other side of the room, slamming to the wall, knocking the breath out of him. YN was growing fear had attached and triggered her power. She took a heavy breath, and still in shock, the boy rubbed his head as he weakly stood up. What the fuck was that?" He looked over at YN, which looked like clearly showed that he demanded answers, but she was silent. "Hey you, I asked a question," he shouted. YN swallowed hard before muttering something incoherent. "Heh? Stop muttering. I can't understand a single word you're saying." I don't know how to explain it," she stuttered. "Huh? What kind of answer is that?" Before YN could say anything, he chuckled, and a smile returned to his face. "You know what? It doesn't matter." He regained the knife in his hand. "Either way, you're still going to sleep." He smiled even bigger. "Nighty-night." And then he threw the knife straight at YN. She closed her eyes, bracing herself for pain. 5 seconds passed, then 10. YN was confused. She couldn't be dead by now. She slowly opened her eyes. There, hovering still in the air, was the knife, a good 6 or 7 inches away from her. The killer himself had a shocked look at his face, then looked at YN. Didn't think it was possible due to the smile carved on his face. The knife continued to float in air for a few seconds more until it dropped to the ground. The guy now had an amused look. "Well, this is something you don't see every day." He began walking towards YN. "My victims avoid 2 of my attacks without even lifting a finger." "You're special, aren't you, sweetheart?" YN gulped, but answered, "In a way, yes." When he was mere foot away from YN, he asked, "What is your name?" YN? Wyan, He said her name in a way that sounded like he was testing it. Well, I'm Jeff. Jeff the Killer. No doubt you heard of me. Actually, I have never heard of you. Huh? Oh, come on, you don't watch TV? Wyan shook her head. I'm not allowed when my parents are awake. Let me guess, parents act like you don't exist because of your abilities, right? Wyan nodded her head. Well then, why don't you move in here? As Jeff asked, gesturing towards the mansion with his arms. With your abilities, I'm sure Slender will let you stay here in a heartbeat. I'm sorry, but I can't. I already have a home, plus I can't control my powers that well. I tried so hard, but nothing. Seriously, you're going back to where everyone picks on you? Just for being different? Where your own parents don't even look at you? Where you're always alone every minute of the day? Do you really want to go back there? Wyan didn't want to admit it, but the way Jeff had pointed it out. But clearly, he and whoever lived in this place would have just used her for her powers. Then again, being used sounds better than being ignored. To Wyan, at that point, well, I'm going to have to think about it. Fair enough. I'll give you 3 days to think about it. Then I'll come over and get your answer. But how will you find me? You don't know where I live. Don't worry about that. That will be easy. Jeff bent over and picked up his knife. Don't throw me back this time, okay? Wyan nodded and stood still as Jeff put his knife and cut a small square of Wyan's shirt. There, I'll be able to find you. Wyan wanted to question him, but chose not to. No, you'll be leaving then. Jeff finished something and pulled out of his pocket. It was a key. That's when Wyan realized it. Jeff is the one who locked the door, enabling her to leave when she wanted. She lightly glared at him. So that's why the door was suddenly locked, she said loudly. Jeff chuckled. What? You look like a good victim, so I did what every killer does. Make sure his target doesn't get away. And it was really adorable to watch you escape through the windows. I'll have you know that all the windows downstairs cannot be opened. They're rusted shut. Wyan only scoffed as she walked back towards the front door, not caring that the eyes were on her. Jeff, knowingly that her powers would deflect any attacks as he planned throwing at her. It seems like Jeff knew that too, from the recent attack and confrontation with her in one way. When they reached the front door, Jeff unlocked it and held it open. There you are. I'll see you in 3 days. Yeah. Before Wyan could walk through the front door, Jeff stopped her by blocking her path with one arm. Don't I get a thank you? He said in a mocking tone. For a killer, this guy sure has a cocky attitude. Thank you for not killing me, Jeff. Now, can I please go? One more thing. Without warning, Jeff took Wyan's chin, raised it, and pressed his lips against hers. Wyan's eyes widened in shock, but Jeff pulled away before her powers could send him all the way back in the room. He licked his lips. Yum, you taste very sweet. With a sexy smirk that Wyan herself could not deny, her face flushed red. What on earth was that for? She asked, a little angry. That was her first kiss with this psychotic killer. Just getting my reward for not killing you. You better get going before I change my mind. Wyan scoffed and Power walked a few steps. As she got off the porch, she broke into a run all the way back home. Behind her, Jeff watched from the front door as she ran, his signature grin on his face. Twinging twirling the piece of fabric from her shirt between his fingers. Finally, something interesting that has happened. I can't wait to see how this plays out.